Hello everyone, my name is Rick Malava. My nickname in the Simply Maya forums is CTBRAM, and one of the users in the forums, Lekra, was asking how someone would go about modeling this roof structure here with this arched surface here. And if you look further down the side of the roof here, it actually has additional arches along the side. Now, he was just trying to create the initial surface arch along here, and he thought maybe you would start with a half of a cylinder and then scale it down in the middle. And when you do that, of course, the polygons down at the base here start to get squished together, and up here at the top they're sort of spread apart. So I thought I would demonstrate how you could do this using nurbs curves and a lofted surface, and since that's a fairly simple process, I thought I'd actually go a little step farther and show how to create the more complex roof surface, which is a compound surface made up of not only the arched surface running from front to back in this direction, but the arches that actually intersect with the roof perpendicular to the arch that's along the front here. So with that said, let's jump in and get started here. So I'm going to turn my grid back on temporarily and zoom in here and get to the sort of the front side here. So the way that I can do this is I'm going to start out with a pair of curves, and I'm going to do a loft to create a surface between the curves. Now as far as creating that curve goes, if I go into create here, there is an arc tool where I can create a nice arc, a very consistent uniform arc, but I'm going to show you a little trick that we can use just using an EP curve to create this arc here. So I'm going to go in the front view, and I'm going to create an EP curve, and I'm going to go to its options just to make sure that I'm in cubic mode. And then holding the X key down, I'm going to use the snap to grid to put a CV here, and then a second edit point or CV over here, and then hit return. And now, although you only see two edit points, when you create a 3-degree curve, it will always have one more CV than the degree of the curve, for the minimum number of CVs to create a curve. So since I've only placed 2 CVs down here, or 2 edit points, it's going to build this degree 3 curve with the minimum number of CVs, which is 4. So if I come up here to perspective mode and turn the grid off and look at the CVs in this curve, which stands for control vertices, you can see that I have 4 of them. And in fact, 2 of them are special. There's a little box and a U, and this tells me the starting point of the curve and the direction, the U direction of the curve. So just like surfaces, curves have a direction in U. So that's what we got there. Now the trick I was going to demonstrate is if I just select these 2 curves, or these 2 CVs, excuse me, since this is sort of averaged, and I pull these up, I'm going to create a nice uniform arc. Right? Now this arc is going to be faceted because there's not enough CVs in this curve to be smooth. And this is the beauty of NURBS curves and surfaces, is I can rebuild them to my heart's content. So I can come down here, and I'm holding the space key down, by the way, to bring this menu up. And if I go to edit curves and go to rebuild curve and go to its options and reset those options, basically I just leave most of these as at their default. So I want to build a uniform curve, and rather than going from the first point being 0 and the last point being 1, I prefer to have whole integer values going from 0 to span. So I turn this option on just as a matter of personal preference. And then once again, I want this to be smooth, but I don't want it to be overly dense, so I think 4 CVs is all, or 8 CVs is all we're going to need. So if I set that to 8 and hit apply, whoops, gave me an error because I'm still in object mode, or in edit mode, not in object mode. So there we go. So now if I hit apply with those settings, you see the curve smooths out, and we have 8 spans in here now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you can also see my edit points. Now I have a special option turned on in my display settings for NURBS curves that says display edit points. So you can go into the Windows preferences and turn that option on. I like to see the number of edit points in my curve. So now that I have a nice smooth arc, uniform arc, I can take that and hit Control D to duplicate it, and I can just pull this back. And then to create a surface now, I can use a loft. So I can pick this curve and that curve and go into surfaces, loft, and go to its options. And then once again, I'm going to turn it back to its reset it to its default settings. And I don't want to create a NURBS surface, I want to create a polygon surface, so I'll select the polygon radio button here. And then I want my polygon surface to be quads. And then as far as tessellation goes, I want a one-to-one correlation between my edit points and edges in the surface that I create, both in the U and the V direction. Now I don't have any curves running in the V direction, so this is just going to be one single span, but I want eight edges running between these edit points here. And so without getting into all the details, whenever you do this, you want a one-to-one match between your NURB surface and the polygon surface you create. Just come down here to your U type and change it to per span number of isoparams and set this value to 1. Do the same thing for V. Per span number of isoparams and set that to 1. And when I hit apply, you'll see I create a nice surface there that has basically one poly edge for every span in this curve and one poly edge for the span between the two curves. Okay, so there's how to create that surface. And as far as adding thickness, it's just a matter of coming in here and doing an extrude, and you create thickness. Right now the normals are reversed the way that I created that. If I pull it up this way, they're not. But let's back out of that. And let's create this more complex surface and create the arcs that run in this direction. You can see you have a shallower, more gentle arc this direction, and then steeper arcs running in that direction. So I'm going to show you another way that we could create a curved surface. I could have started out with plane, like this, with a number of polygons running in this direction, like I have here. I'm going to hit Control, Duplicate, and center that pivot, and then I'm just going to pull this copy over here for a second. And now I could apply a bend deformer to this, but I'm going to show a way of doing it that's kind of similar to the way we created that original CV curve, that EP curve, and then just pulled up 2 of its control vertices to bend it. I'm going to apply a lattice to this. So I'm going to come over here to Create Deformer Lattice. Right? And by default, it always starts out 2, 5, and 2. So if I come to the channel box here, you see I have 5 divisions in this direction, right? And that 5 divisions is basically the edges, the number of edges, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what I'm going to do is grab the T divisions, not the number, but the title there, the name, and then holding the middle mouse button, I'm just going to scrub that back and set it back to 2. Okay, because what we really want to do is we want to come in this S direction and we want to add 2 like that. Okay, and then if I click out here, I can go to lattice points and I can just pick these lattice points in the middle, just like we did with the EP curve, and I can pull those up and make this a little bit steeper of a curve. Okay, and then I can take the whole thing and I can hit the R key and scale it in a little bit. Okay, and then I can select this guy and just hit delete history, and then you'll notice it's a little bit flat at the top here. So if I just take these vertices and manually tweak them up a little bit, I get a little bit tighter arch than I had here, right? And it's not really an arch, it's more of an ellipse, but it just gives you an idea of another way that we can do this. I mean, I could come in here from the front view, and it just depends on how anal I want to get. Personally, I would have done this with another arch, but I can come in here and, whoops, go to vertices. I can take these verts and I can scale them out and just sort of manually, you can see very easily build this arc. Okay, so now it's more of an arc manually created. Now let's build this roof surface, right? So I'm going to take and put this back to 0, so it's at the center. I'm going to hit the E key and I'm going to rotate it 90. And now I want to combine these 2 surfaces together, but it's just a single surface with no thickness. So in order to I'm going to use the boolean now to combine these 2, and in order for the boolean to work, I need to actually have some thickness here. So I'm just going to arbitrarily go and add an extrude, and pull this guy down and then flatten it out at the bottom. Okay. And it turned black because I have, under my lighting tab, I have two-sided lighting turned off, and I do this intentionally so that I can see what direction my normals are facing. So I can come over here and I can go to normals and reverse normals and fix that problem. Now I have that up on my shelf up here because I do it so often. And we'll do the same thing. We'll pick this surface. I'm going to hit the Q key to drop that rotate tool, and I'm going to extrude it. Once again, I'm going to hit this little button here so I'm extruding in the global coordinate system. Kind of eyeball it at the bottom there. Square it off. And I'm just going to eyeball it at the bottom there and hit select the object again, and then I'm going to come up here and reverse its normals, which I have on my shelf bar. Okay. So now I only did this because I need two objects that have thickness in order for the Boolean operation to work properly. So with these two objects now selected, I can delete their history, and I come down here and go to Boolean union. And you can see when I do that, the two objects combine a lot around the top here, so I can come in and select these faces. Now I don't need them anymore and get rid of them, because that's all I wanted to do, was create the union of the two surfaces along the top, right? Now you have to come in here, and whenever you do a Boolean like this, you're going to need to do some cleanup. You see I've created these big n-gons in here, and that's easily corrected by just coming and splitting edges to connect the edges that run in this direction, and taking, for instance, this vert here, and just using the merge tool, merge it up like that. That little change isn't going to affect things any. But it's going to help to create a quad, right? And I'm not going to clean this whole surface up, but I'm just going to show you very quickly how to do much of it, right? So I'm going to come in here and do that, and then I can come up here and pick my split polygon tool, which I also have on my shelf, and just from a top view, right? I can do a go from that point to that point, and from there to there, and from there to there, right? And then I want to have a four-sided polygon in here, so I can actually just go from here to here, here to here, and that creates a quad. And from there, I guess I am going to clean the whole thing up, aren't I? And then go from here to here. Oops, if that ever happens, just hit the delete key and you can redo it. Okay. And so there you go. The whole surface is now quads. There's a quad in these spots right here. Really doesn't matter because I don't intend to smooth this. So, you know, just kind of getting anal. When you're all done with that, once again, remember to always clean up your geometry. And there's the start of this. So I can come in here now just to finish this up very quickly. I'm going to take these verts and I'm going to pull them in. And I'm going to take these verts and I'm going to pull those in. And I'm actually going to undo both of those because I want to take these verts. I want to scale them in so they're even on both sides. And I just want these verts here. And I'm going to pull those back like that. And I'm going to take these verts right here and just pull them back a little bit so there's a little bit more of a gap in the middle. And then I can take this whole surface and I can mirror it in the, you can see this is the Z direction right here. My mouse is acting weird. If I select, I'm trying to get this guy to turn its color, which is blue. When it was selected, it was yellow. So you can see this is the Z direction. If I want to mirror it in the negative Z direction, I just take this guy and hit mirror negative Z. Mirror negative Z. And there we go, the start of a more complex surface. So if I just temporarily select these curves, Control, group them, put them on their own layer, and hide their visibility, you can see now I have a surface here. That's kind of like this guy. I kind of went overboard with these arches, didn't I? And this front arch is a little gentler, so little wider, so we'll spread it out like that. Now the only thing that's left is to give this thing some thickness. So if I pick this guy and once again come in here and go to Edit Mesh, Extrude, which I also have on my shelf bar, hit the little button there so we go into the global coordinate system and pull it down to give it some thickness. And then, since I reversed the normals when I did that, pick the whole surface and reverse the normals again, and there you go. We have the arch here with the two crazy arches there. I went a little overboard on those, but you get the idea how you can use the Boolean operation to combine this to create a more complicated surface, and then just go through manually clean it up to convert everything back into quads. So this is all quads. Now if you intended to smooth this, you'd have to add some support edges all the way around this thing, but personally what I would do is probably pick the outer edges and just bevel them to give it a bevel, and then spend a little bit more time on figuring out the right arch for these side arches. And then you can just keep once again, I could delete these faces here, and I could mirror this again if I wanted 4 bays on this side and 1 bay in the front. So that's the process. I hope it helps you out. The idea is, first of all, to create the arched surface, I just created a pair of CV curves and or EP curves, and then used modified the center CVs to give it an arc, and then lofted between the two, rebuilt the curves, and then lofted between the two. And then to create this compound roof shape, I just created a second arched surface with a slightly larger arch, and then gave them both some thickness and booleaned them together, and then deleted out the bottom pieces that I didn't need, and then add some thickness to the top pieces that remain. And you can create a complex surface like this. So I hope this tip helps you out. My name is once again Rick Malava for simplymaya.com, and thank you for watching.